and looking at how it's laid and where damage was thrown, we can definitively say this was a brief tornado. Looked like max winds of about 90 miles per hour. So that's going to make it an EF1 tornado out of a scale of 0 to 5. So it looks like it was a very brief touchdown. There's not much of a track, and it's not very wide, so we haven't yet determined exactly where it started or where it ended, but there's not a lot of damage on either side. This is the worst part of it right here.
So you think it was like an isolated tornado, like very narrow, very small?
It was a very small, very isolated tornado. It was part of the same storm system that came across all of Houston last night. We had quite a bit of rain, lightning. We've had sporadic reports around the city of some trees down or some limbs down, nothing of this magnitude. So this was the worst part of the damage last night that we've been reporting, that we've been out to see.
What is it about the damage that tells you that?
So part of it is knowing the nature of the way the storm was moving. Most of the debris is lying in a certain direction, but we have certain debris that's also lying opposite that. We had an large commercial air conditioning unit on top of this roof that was blown into the parking lot, even though most of the other damage was blown this way. That's represents there was actually some circulation there, which is a defining factor for it being a tornado.
And so it literally went through the middle of this parking lot?
It started right across the street, maybe right on Mason Avenue, and then came right through this parking lot and then lifted right about where we're standing is where it looks like. Very brief. So the windows in that Firestone behind us, it looks like it probably had windows at this lobby. They blew, and then all that wind came in, the roof went up, and that outer wall just collapsed.
So it's quite the blessing that this wasn't a neighborhood where people were sleeping.
We were very fortunate this didn't happen just a few hundred yards farther down, because there are neighborhoods right behind this shopping center, definitely.
And we know that there are a couple people at this sports bar here. For future reference, what can people do to protect themselves if they find themselves in a situation where tornadoes pass them by? I think
what they did inadvertently was the right thing. They were in the back in a protected area, and looking at the building behind us, this is why we don't want people near windows when we have tornadoes coming. Those windows can give very easily, and then you can see the significant damage. Once you get air inside that structure, it can blow out. So when you're in a tornado situation, get inside, interior room, away from windows.
And can you explain one more time the winds and what EF tornado it was?
The EF1 tornado, max winds of about 90 miles per hour. So we have tools that we can use when we look at damage to determine structurally what kind of wind speeds would have caused that damage. Looking behind me there with the way those windows blew out and looking at the structure and how it failed, our tools estimate the winds about 90 miles an hour. And that's what gives it that category of the tornado. This is it, fortunately. We were very fortunate last night. This was the most significant area. Like I said, we did have like 62-mile-an-hour winds measured at Hooks Airport with the storm last night, and we had a few trees down over there. We have not surveyed that yet, but nothing, no structures that were damaged, anything like this.
Such a blessing.
Very much so, very much so. Anything else for the Weather Service?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.